when I was 14, I ordered so many from Canonical that eventually they cut me off. Those discs were like my gateway into the open source and Linux world. Hello, my name is Prisk. I'm a community engineer here at Canonical. I'm also an Ubuntu member, a dad, a mountain biker, and a hardcore nerd. So when I was, I think, probably 14, I requested the free Ubuntu CDs through the Ship It program. I ordered so many from Canonical that eventually they cut me off. I think I got a letter that said, that's it, no more. Like, we have to send these to other people. It can't just be some kid in rural PA. Because I used to give them out to all my friends. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. It almost felt like I unlocked like a cheat code. Like, how is this free? Like, there's gotta be an angle somewhere, but there wasn't. Those discs were like my gateway really into like the open source and Linux world. And from there, it really developed like my natural love for computing. And then when I got my first profession at a very small rural school, they had a very large fleet of these old failing laptops that were probably 5, 6, 7+ years old. I had the idea, why don't we just put Ubuntu Linux on all of these? So it was a matter of how do we convince all these folks who've never even heard of Ubuntu, don't know how to pronounce the word Ubuntu, and let alone to convince them to let us deploy it across the entire district. I was extremely excited. I was pumped. To be honest, I was like, yes. I actually left cost completely out of the matrix to begin with. There's this assumption that it's the freemium dilemma, right? The freeware, that if it's free, there's a catch. When I went through this whole pitch to them, at the very end, they said, okay, like, well, how much? And we actually had demos on the table. And they said, what's the catch? It's free. And they're like, it's free. I'm like, yes, it doesn't really cost anything. I think by our math, I think we probably saved about $1.5 million over the lifespan of this project, just from repurposing these old machines that were, well, destined for landfill. And then the ecological savings of not throwing thousands of machines into a dumpster. That was pretty nice too. That was just, I guess, an added benefit. As far as I know, we were only one of maybe 2 or 3 in the whole United States that actually had that large of a Linux fleet. And funny enough, a lot of the work done to provision those machines was done by students. Student volunteers that came in, and then through this program we established it's called a tech apprenticeship program. So the students could learn like practical skills while they were at school, like actually professional, like technological skills while they were in junior high. So we had kids that were age 12 to 18 learning how to do all the way from like basic break fix diagnostics to fairly advanced networking. Funny enough, one of the students that I had at the first district that I worked at now sits in my seat. He started working with us when he was 14, and now he is the IT director there. And he credits, honestly, learning Ubuntu when he was 14 to where he is now as leading the department that he once volunteered in, which is so cool. But yeah, I don't think we should forget that there are millions, if not billions of people that are just looking for like a stable, solid operating system that they can use and get work done and be innovative and creative with. Really, I think we have a mission, at least on our team, to really focus in on like the next generation. If we don't start building that up, eventually, again, those people will gray out of the community. We have one of our, I say, biggest contributors of the past year is like an 18-year-old from India who's making incredible software. We have another student who is, I think, 17 and had an official Ubuntu flavor. So these are kids, right? But they're going to, I think, take the place, or they're going to fill the shoes of these amazing developers who've been here for 20 odd years. And I think we really need to support and nurture the next generation of open source giants. And I encourage everyone, I said, even if your code isn't great, I said, even if it makes a real developer cry, post it anyways. Put it up there, like be willing to show that, you know, you're willing to contribute even if it's not perfect. I think makes a huge difference. Yeah, when you hear the word community, it's this often thrown around very nebulous term, but at least in the Ubuntu world, it really is like a community of communities. It started off as a very grassroots project in the early 2000s up until about like 2010 or so. There were about 200 of these local communities. They shortened it to locos, and they were absolutely everywhere. I mean, I don't think there was like a part of the world that didn't have one, short of Antarctica, as far as I know. I don't know if they had one hidden there. I guess we have penguins there, so that should count. Linux takeover. But if it's your neighbor or a friend or someone from a local university saying, this is a really cool thing, you should try this, I think it lands a little more, and you can really build up the excitement. When it's people all around you enjoying the same thing in person, you can really see them face to face. And from those, there were hundreds of like small meetups. And you can find these if you look for like Ubuntu local communities online. But I think an outcome of COVID that people didn't expect was there was this really strong desire for like that in-person connection. And I think people like saw that even through like how people's like mental health really struggled, and they were surprised by that. Like they really needed the human connection. Like it's so important. Even though we're all online and connectivity is easier than ever, people still felt or alienated and isolated. On ubuntu.com/community, we have a section specifically for finding local communities, learning how to start one if one doesn't exist. And this can be a large-scale countrywide group. We have a handful that represent an entire region. And then we have something as small as a university group. And I think this is what we should encourage. If you have a small handful of friends you'd like to sit and talk about Ubuntu and Linux, that is effectively a local community. And then as they kind of scale up and start to have more events, then we can maybe look at connecting them with like an engineer from Canonical, maybe to come speak, maybe provide a workshop. So it really does open up like a world of opportunities. So it can, again, start off as maybe you just having a beer with a friend and eventually lead to a professional career with a host of new skills. It's supposed to kind of be reflective of the community in which it takes place. We have an UbuCon in every continent this past year, except Australia and New Zealand. So my hope is, if there's anyone in Australia and New Zealand, that you will host an UbuCon. We would love to have one.